Hello, welcome to the Brickman Banter Show, virtual edition. I'm your host, Wendy Brickman of Brickman Marketing, and I'm thrilled to have Henry Gonzales, our Monterey County Agricultural Commissioner, with us today. Welcome, Henry.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Great. And if you could turn up your volume in any way, that would be great.
I'm sorry, off?
Turn it up.
Oh, up. Very good.
Okay, good. Well, we met a while ago at the Monterey County Workforce Investment Board luncheon, and I was very, very impressed with your remarks that I hope you'll share with us today as well. But first, tell us a little bit about your background.
Certainly. So I have first a test for everybody, as it were, that I'd like to run.
Okay.
Get this going. So this is the test here, and this is Miss Droge's third grade class from a long, long time ago.
Okay.
And, so the test is, who amongst all of these young, bright individuals will or would become agricultural commissioner in Monterey County one day? Want to take a guess?
Well, I don't see the picture. So Are you sharing your screen?
Yes, I thought I was, but maybe I'm not.
You click on share screen at the bottom.
Okay, so.
Well, we should say that somebody I went to third grade with was actually the first person to hire you, I believe, in the Agricultural Commission's office, Susan Cohen. And we grew up in a non-agricultural area of Los Angeles, so there you go.
We'll figure, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm sharing my screen now.
I don't see it.
Huh.
I just see you. There's a green button at there. Okay, wait.
Am I sharing the screen yet?
Now it says Zoom, but we're getting closer. There, very good. Okay, there we go. Mrs. Droges, where was this?
This was in Fresno.
Okay.
Where I was born and sort of raised. So we were migrant farm workers, and so we traveled all throughout the state from San Joaquin Valley, Imperial Valley, Santa Clara Valley, and we just went all over the place looking for work, primarily harvesting crops. And so we had a lot of family in Fresno, so a lot of times we'd end up back in Fresno. So a number of times I was attending school in the Fresno area.
Which was an agricultural and still is.
Yes. Oh yeah, very big in agriculture. Many years the #1 ag producing county in the nation. But we were migrant farm workers, and this particular picture of the third grade. And so my question here is, can you guess which individuals would be ag commissioner in Monterey County one day?
No, you point your cursor. First row?
Well, yes, good guess.
Okay.
So I don't know how you're seeing these pictures, but
not bad. Oh, there you are. Yeah, I think that's who I picked out. You look so handsome.
Interestingly, at least to me, even back then I wore a tie.
And then what happened?
What's that?
And then what happened after third grade?
Because we were migrant farm workers, I was always attending 2 to 3 different schools every year, and so fell back, as can be predicted in my studies. And it wasn't until the third grade that I learned the alphabet. Which, nowadays,
Soon enough.
You're writing books in the third
Sure.
grade. But for me, as a migrant farm worker, until the third grade, and I'll share that I really didn't like the lifestyle of a migrant farm worker, primarily because I had to go every many schools every year, 3 different schools every year. And so not only did I fall behind academically, but there in other ways as well, I believe. But I did learn a couple of really good lessons. One of them was to make friends. I became really good at making friends with new people all the time. But then, as luck would have it, or whatever happened, inevitably I would wear out my welcome. And so I also learned how to fight, because many times it would be many on one kind of fights. But that's the way it kind of was back then. And all the locals would of course stick together. And since I was the new kid, I would be the one that would be the target of whatever.
Bullies, we call them.
Bullies, yeah. But I did learn to fight multiple.
But you made friends quickly, I'm sure, too.
That was always first and foremost my strategy, and if I could stay there, I would.
Right.
Learn that sometimes you have to, not respond to certain things because it doesn't pay.
Yeah, they're baiting you.
Yeah. But anyway, my family finally settled down in Salinas when I was 10. And so I've been able to set down roots in Salinas and consider myself to be from Salinas. And so I went to elementary school, 6th grade, then to junior high, high school, and then Hartnell College before I transferred over to Cal State Fresno and studied agricultural science with an emphasis in vegetable production. So
Sure.
I've often been asked, why did you study agriculture? And I always tell folks, well, no matter what happens, people are going to eat. So I figure I'll always have a job. And with this COVID-19, it's really proven that to be the case because it is agriculture is one of the essential businesses that we are still. I've been working every day, haven't missed a day, and our staff as well is working as part of the national infrastructure called agriculture.
We're so grateful. Thank you. We're so grateful because, frankly, we need to eat. And second of all, that's what we look forward to because so much is closed.
At least 3 times a day.
Yeah, at least.
But the other reason for me to choose agriculture was because I wanted to be able to come back home to Salinas and be able to find a job. And I knew that there's a lot of agriculture around Salinas. And so I figured I'll be able to get a job if I know about agriculture. So
yeah, that's right. You knew 1 million people by then.
As well. So when I graduated, I came back and I started looking for a job. Went to some of the largest companies in the area, and they would tell me, "Oh, you're an ag science major with emphasis in vegetable production, and you're bilingual. We'll hire you.
Really? That's great.
We want you to start next week. We want you to work here for a couple of months before you go to Yuma for a stint, and then after Yuma, you're going to be going to Huron, and after Huron, back to Salinas, and that's kind of the annual cycle. You'll be going from Salinas to Yuma to Huron, back to Salinas, and so you'll be living in those 3 places at least part of the year. So that really didn't suit me well because it seemed to me that it was the lifestyle of the migrant again that I
right.
like. And so what happened was I went to the agricultural commissioner's office where I met Susan Cohen. And
what year was that?
Oh, this was in 1984.
Okay. Wow.
I was right out of college. She offered me a job. It was as an agricultural aide. It was a temporary position for only 10 weeks at minimum wage. And she asked me, will you take it? And I said, yeah, I'll take it. At the time, So at the time I was unemployed, and yeah, I think it was smart because I've not missed the days of work or a payday since then.
Wow.
I just worked out for me, and I did what I was told and did my best, and was promoted within the ag commissioner's office 7 times.
Wow. Yes.
Was able to get my master's in public administration. I got all my ag commissioner's license, and then was called by Ventura County, and they called me and they said, "Hey, we heard about you, and we'd like to see if you'll be interested in applying for the ag commissioner's job in Ventura County." So I checked with my wife, and she said, "Yeah, go for it." And so I did, and they hired me. Um,
What year was that?
that was in 2008.
Okay.
So I was ag commissioner there for about almost 10 years.
What is there compared to ours? Are we 4 point something billion-dollar industry here?
Yes, we're about 4.25.
And what was Ventura?
Ventura, in comparison, they're about half
That's what I thought.
agriculture, about 2.25 or so $billion, but they have twice the population. So it sets up a really different political dynamic. But they're very similar.
My parents are from Los Angeles, and there was agriculture, they got there in the 30s or whatever, 20s and 30s, and there was plenty of agricultural land. And I always compare it, the San Joaquin Valley and the Salinas Valley, to the San Fernando Valley, and then Port Hueneme area maybe, or the Oxnard area. Is that where there's a lot of agriculture?
At one time, I think in 1955, Los Angeles was the #1 ag producing county in the state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Changed quite a bit.
Yes. That's why I love living here. I like this.
Oh, me too. I love it. But both counties are very similar, same crops, many of the same growers, actually.
Well,
But 2 years ago, I came back to Monterey to be a commissioner here. So
great.
here I am.
Not mine. Anyway, go ahead. So 2 years ago, you became ag commissioner in Monterey County?
Yes, came back, and it's quite satisfying to me to be able to come back and head the department that I started my career in.
Right.
2000 or 1984. So it's quite satisfying. And for me, having been a farm worker myself, I started working as a farm worker when I was 13 years old here in Salinas Valley. And I was thinning lettuce with the now banned, rather infamous short handle hoe back in the day. And I was working for a company that was under contract with the United Farm Workers. So I became also a member of the United Farm Workers. And to this day, I am the only agricultural commissioner ever to have also been a member of the United Farm Workers.
And what's brilliant about it is you can, from having done all those jobs while you were growing up, it gives you so much more empathy and so much more knowledge and experience than most, right? So we're grateful to have you as our ag commissioner. That's why I was impressed when I heard that at the luncheon. So tell us a little bit more about agriculture in Monterey. What makes it unique?
So let me start with this picture here.
Yeah, thank you. There we go.
This picture, map of the world.
Yes.
I'd like to point out first here that here's the Mediterranean basin right here. And also like to point out that how it's in red, and then there's other areas on the world map that's red. Here, Southwest and South Australia, Western Cape of South Africa. Here, a piece of central Chile, and then Upper California and Northern Baja California. These red areas, these 5 red areas, are the Mediterranean type climates of the world. And you'll notice how they are all by a large body of water. And that's really key with these regions of the world, because it's that ocean influence that stabilizes the climate for those areas and allows for year-round production. So we're able to grow year-round, and so are those 5 areas.
Wow.
Not only that, but that Mediterranean type climate, it allows us to grow cool weather crops near the ocean. And as you move inland and the temperature warms up, you're able to grow other crops such as grapes and citrus, which are subtropical plants that need a warmer climate. So it allows for a great array of different commodities to be grown. In the United States, this Mediterranean type climate that we're living in is the only one in the United States. So very special places in the world, and this is one of the reasons why we are so rich in agriculture here. I'm gonna go to the next slide.
Do we have, how many crops do we have currently growing?
We have upwards of 80 different crops, depending on
Wow.
how you want to divide that. 80 different crops that all generate at least $1 million each.
I was looking at your crop report from 2018, but still, I don't know how much it's changed. We'll talk about that. Okay. And that's a great map. What's next?
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
This
Oh,
is
good.
this is
Okay, there.
right out of our crop report, or the information is right out of our 2018 crop report, which is the most recent
Oh,
edition that we have of the crop report. We're working right now on the 2019 version that we'll be releasing in July if everything works as we plan. But you can see in this picture here that we have Monterey County as in the fourth place, generating $4.26 billion in
wow.
2018. So we are not only in the fourth place for California counties, but nationwide, we are also in the fourth place county in the nation. Of the top 10 counties in California, 9 of them are in the top 10. There is one county in Colorado that breaks into the top 10, but other than that, we're almost all of the top 10 counties, and Monterey is the fourth top county in the nation, in the state, and we're there perennially. We're almost every year we're in the fourth spot there.
When we look at the first three, is that because they have more acreage? I mean, or why?
Different reasons. Uh, I'm told that it's also because they have a lot of crops that receive large government subsidies that
Oh,
propel them up as high as they are. They have a lot of dairy, as well as now they have almonds and then grapes as well. They are big counties, but on a per acre basis, Monterey County grows more because we grow year round and we're able to grow multiple crops. We grow the so-called specialty crops, the very healthy fruits and vegetables that we all know we need to eat every day. That's what Monterey County grows. And so on a per acre basis, we're able to outproduce them, but they have many more acres. And then with the government subsidies, they're way up there.
I
But
see. And the 2020 crop report will look dramatically different. We'll talk about that.
and we'll talk about
Everything will look
that in
dramatically.
a bit. But I'll point something out really briefly here.
Sure.
Of this top 10, the top 10 doesn't hardly ever change. Uh, Eventually it will, but I want to point out that we had some drought years within the past
Yes.
10 years. We've had like about 8 drought years. And during those drought years, of all these top 10 counties in the state, almost all but 2 of the counties dropped in value significantly. Some of these top 3 counties dropped as much as $2 billion in value. And the reason they dropped in value was that they depend on water from the federal and the state uh, aquifer, the canal system that's
Yes.
federal. Uh, and so the two counties that did not drop actually uh, went up a little bit was Monterey and Ventura County.
Mm,
And so you'll
funny.
notice that Monterey and Ventura County are the only two counties that are not in the Central Valley.
Right. Right.
Monterey and Ventura County have their own relatively abundant supply of water, and we depend on the water that comes from the aquifer that we pump up and to irrigate the crops. So what that really showed me was that in a drought, Monterey and Ventura County are resilient in that they have their own relatively abundant water supply. And these other counties that depend on the
Rain.
federal state system, uh, they're in trouble during especially sustained droughts over a number of years. But that bodes well for Monterey County.
Yes.
So I'm going to go on to another slide.
Sure. Thank you.
Um, and this is just the top 10. I don't
There
think
we
you
go. I love that.
see it very well, but we're always keeping track of which is the number one crop, which is number two, etc.
So
So
leaf lettuce is what?
leaf
Is it
lettuce,
iceberg?
no, iceberg is down here, also known as head lettuce. It's in the
Okay.
third. You know, we could have combined head lettuce with all the lettuces, and then it'd be a much bigger number. Or we could have broken up the leaf lettuce group, which is consists of green leaf, red leaf, butter, and romaine lettuce. We could have broken it up that way, and then they would not be in the top 10. Then strawberries would be the number
Number
one.
one.
So depending on how we break it up, uh, but this is how we've been breaking it up for many years, if not decades. So I've not wanted to change that. That way
Right.
we can continue to compare year to year what how we've done. Are we going up? Are we going down? Here you can see the same rankings from 2017, and you'll notice it's the same. It's the same 10 crops. Only
Right.
only some changes in the order of these crops.
I don't know if you were visiting a few years ago when the Monterey County Fair had a strawberry theme, and I worked with them, and we had almost the world's largest strawberry shortcake that we built.
I remember. I think I remember reading about that.
Yeah, that was a
Even
lot
though
of fun.
even though I was in Ventura County, I would read the news around here every day.
Good. Yeah, that was fun. So I think there's trends in lettuce. Sometimes, romaine is hot. It's sometimes the mixed lettuces, but
Yeah.
lettuce is great that it grows so well here.
Yes, it prefers that cool ocean influence weather. It grows nice, tight heads. It's what is preferred by consumers. So I'm going to go on to another slide. So in addition to the crop report, here a number of years ago, we compiled this other report called the Economic Contributions of Monterey County Agriculture. And what this report sought to do was to show what is the multiplier effect of agriculture on on the entire county, on the economy of the county.
Right.
Now, I should have mentioned back here that these amounts that these numbers, for instance, the $733,171,000 attributed to leaf lettuce, these are all numbers that are not what the farmer got to take home, although I'm sure they wish they could. But out of all of this money that they received for their crops in the field, they have to pay for everything. They have to pay all of their workers. They have to pay for their gasoline and diesel, their electricity, any loan that they may have taken out, any leases, equipment, their taxes. Everything has to be paid out of these amounts, and they do. They have to. And so this money here that is generated by these commodities through the art of farming has has a multiplier effect once it's spent. Once the farmers spend that money on buying fertilizers and buying tractors and buying other equipment, it generates money. And then the those dollars that they spend paying their workers, etc., when those dollars are spent, there's additional multiplier effect that takes place. And so this report, the economic contributions of Monterey County agriculture, this is what we did with this report. And these are some of the highlights that the report showed. Now, this information is a little bit dated now, and we're actually redoing this report, and we'll be releasing another updated version here later this year.
Good.
So these are the numbers that we had these PhDs compile this economic multiplier effect report for us, and this is what they showed, that with the multiplier effect, that $4.26 billion balloons up to $8.1 billion. Now, this particular report, I believe it was based on 2014 data.
Wow. 6 years ago.
Yes.
And how many, I see there's 76,000 jobs at that time and maybe more now. How many companies in all would you say locally, I guess within the county borders, are involved? I used to say like 1 in 4 jobs or 1 in 3 jobs. How many companies are involved in Monterey County in agriculture in some supplier, distributor, equipment way, would you say? Do we know?
Oh, I would say anywhere around 2,000 companies.
Wow.
We,
Wow.
we have we have about 800 that are just agriculture. So the others would be the companies that supply tractors, that supply fertilizer. There's some other service or some materials to ag.
Cooling plants.
Cooling plants, yes. The packing houses, the processors. 1 in every 5 jobs in Monterey County is
Thank you.
an agricultural job.
Thank you.
1 in 5. So about 20% of the jobs in the county are agriculture oriented.
And is this, I know the crop report is on your website. Is this report on there as well?
Yes.
Good, good.
Yes. Yeah,
And there's that agricultural leadership. I took Leadership Monterey and Leadership Santa Cruz, but there's an agricultural leadership program I highly recommend. I think, does the Business Council run it now? And it's a way to learn these numbers and to actually go out in the fields. And I've done that too, to Tanamer and Antle, and, and really learn hands-on and see right up close what you're talking about.
Yes, we actually, in partnership with the Grower Shippers Foundation, we have a program called Ag Knowledge.
That's it.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah, I've been out to a day, and excellent. There's so much to learn, and anyway, keep going.
It is a great program. But I also want to point out here that ag generates $100 million in local ag business taxes.
Wow.
Yes. So they support the community in many, many different ways. And ag is clearly the economic engine for Monterey County.
So even with COVID-19, the fact, we'll talk about that. It's going to be impacted, of course, but it's still going to be substantial, I would imagine, because the ag businesses are essential.
Yes. And, right now, because ag is so big in Monterey County, if you go to Salinas and some of the other valley towns, you'll see that there's still a lot of activity.
Good.
There's still a lot of people up early in the morning. The big trucks are back right now. All the diesel reefers are all back.
Thank goodness.
A lot of activity because as one of the essential businesses, it's not stopping. So we have that as a blessing. But yeah, the COVID virus is impacting, and I'll share more about that in a bit.
Sure. Right. Okay. Good statistics.
So I want to now talk about the role of the agricultural commissioner, because there's folks out there that are like me. When I first went to the ag commissioner's office back in 1984, I didn't know what the ag commissioner's
Right.
was. I had never heard of that. Believe it or not, having studied agriculture, I had never heard of what
Wow.
agricultural commissioner was or did. But this is our mission statement. We are to promote and protect agriculture, the environment, and the public welfare, and to ensure consumer and business confidence in the marketplace. And so I'll be talking a little bit about that and interweave it with my comments about the role of the agricultural commissioner here locally. So these are a couple of code sections from the uh, California Food and Agricultural Code. This first section, 2001, says that there is in each county government the County Department of Agriculture. Regardless of the county, it could be San Francisco, there is a county ag department in San Francisco, LA, you name it. Every county has a county ag department. Then this other section here, section 2002, says the County Department of Agriculture is under the control of the County Agricultural Commissioner. So not under the control of the Board of Supervisors or anyone else. And I think that the idea of these two code sections is that it's important. Agriculture is important, and there should be such a department in every county.
It's critical. And
Agriculture.
today we see why, even more than ever before.
Even
It's so great. So who do you report to,
Ah,
among others?
by law, the ag commissioner works under the direction and supervision of the secretary of the California Department of Food and Agriculture and under the director of the Department of Pesticide Regulation. And
Okay.
of course, because the Board of Supervisors of every county appoints the ag commissioner, I also work for the Board of Supervisors. So it really depends on what I'm doing, will dictate which of my supervisors and directors I'm going to be following. But together, we're here to protect agriculture in Monterey County.
And what is the Farm Bureau's role then?
The Farm Bureau, they are advocacy for the farmers.
I see.
So they look to engage in policy and direction and help advise everybody who's working in agriculture. They'll share with me their thoughts.
Good.
I'm sure that the farmers do as well. I do attend their meetings, or I'll send our assistant ag commissioner to attend their meetings so that we know what's happening with agriculture. We can hear directly from them. We really need to have a close relationship so that we do what we all want, which is to protect agriculture here in the county.
And then the Growers Shippers Association is?
A very similar type of organization. Both are member driven, and they both have their respective boards of directors, and there's some overlap, but then they specialize in in certain areas.
Okay.
But they're very similar. And
But you all work together, obviously, especially now. I mean, anyway.
And there's other advocacy groups here in the county that advocate for their members. The Monterey County Cattlemen's Association.
Yep.
The Monterey County Vintners and Growers Association. We have statewide, we have the California Strawberry Commission as well.
In Watsonville.
Those are the main entities, ag advocate groups that we work with to do what we all agree on, that we need to protect this essential business.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So this here is a picture of some ag commissioners from a long, long time ago. And it's just to remind me to point out that the ag commissioners in California were created in 1881.
Okay.
It's a group that has their their job, their role has always been to protect agriculture.
Vital role. Is
Since
there one in every state, by the way?
in every state, I believe there's an ag commissioner in every state, but very unique for California is that we have an ag commissioner in every county.
Right. That's smart. Obviously.
Well, and it makes sense because California is the #1 agriculture county in the nation by far. I think bigger than 2 and 3 put together.
Right.
Why we need uh, such a such a number of ag commissioners to help protect agriculture.
Yeah, and every county may have its specialty crops.
We do, and every ag commissioner's office is a little bit different. And I'm gonna mention something about that in a bit. But just for comparison, here's a picture of the agricultural commissioners from last year. We have conferences that we attend, and so we're always meeting, and we always like to take a group shot at least.
More women
More women. There's
since 1881 or whatever year.
yeah, there was none in 1881. Now I think
Right.
we're up to about a dozen women in our ag commissioners.
Cool.
So a little bit about the ag commissioners. They are unique in the nation that we have an ag commissioner in every county. There's state licensing requirements to become an ag commissioner, and there's federal requirements. Even to become an agricultural inspector, you have to have a minimum of a 4-year degree in one of the biological sciences, one of the natural sciences. And then there's licensing exams, state licensing exams that you have to pass in order to be able to do the work of the agricultural commissioner as an inspector. And then there's, of course, training, education that never ends. And what I really appreciate about the Ag Commissioner's Office, amongst other things, is that it's a career series. You enter at the bottom of the organization, and you can move up in the organization depending on your own desires and abilities. You can move up and become Ag Commissioner. There's never been a commissioner.
Would you say that, I know Steve McShane has a degree in soil sciences. Are those usually Cal State, Fresno, and San Luis Obispo? Is that a Cal State as well? In Davis? What are some of the ag colleges that are 4-year?
You named 3 of the best right there.
Okay.
California State University, Fresno, where I graduated from. Cal Poly, both Cal Polys, Pomona and San Luis Obispo.
Pomona.
Really great ag schools. And then Davis, the #1 ag school in the world.
Wow.
There's other schools that have really significant ag programs. Chico State as well.
Okay.
So those are, and you'll find many graduates. But even here from our local
Hartnell
University, Monterey Bay.
Okay.
We have some of our staff graduated with environmental sciences degrees.
Right. And Hartnell College is a great place to start.
That's where I started.
Great. Yeah. It's a great school.
And before I transferred to Fresno. We've had a good program, and they're rebuilding it right now.
Okay, good.
And so I'll just share a little bit about each county ag department is unique. Believe it or not, Los Angeles is the biggest ag commissioner's office in the state. They have about 400 employees.
Wow, for the moment. Right. Wow. Is it downtown LA or where is it?
They have offices throughout their county. Arcadia is the main main office location. Our department, we have about 68 staff compared to 400 for LA County. And we have about a $12 million budget. And again, we're appointed 4-year terms by the Board of Supervisors, and again, directed by the Director of California Department of Pesticide Regulation and Secretary of California Department of Food and Agriculture. So this here slide just helps remind me that this is our department logo. But we work in partnership with the California Department of Food and Ag, here's their logo, and the Department of Pesticide Regulation, and the United States Department of Agriculture.
There you go, USDA, right.
And we work with here, this is representative of agriculture because we have to work with the industry. So we work in partnership on the various agricultural issues. Many of the issues are guided by federal law through the USDA or the federal Environmental Protection Agency.
Well, I've been so grateful to work with the Monterey County Fair since 2006, and which they're an agricultural division. Which, can you explain that?
Not totally, but I do know that it is a division of CDFA.
Seventh agriculture. It's a seventh agricultural district. That's it.
Okay. Yes. So we have a big role there. We always.
You're very supportive. And it's a great place for, I always say, it's such a great place. Some of the Monterey Peninsula residents who move here or just aren't, are busy with their lives, don't realize all that we're sharing today. And I've been lucky to work with the fair and start to learn more and more and more. And I love that the Monterey Peninsula Fair, the Salinas Valley Fair is fantastic. And I'm hoping we'll be able to hold the Monterey County Fair this year in some way, so that, because it's a way for young people to see what a fantastic career is, the 4-H, the FFA, and the auction. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. One of the things that happened with the Salinas Valley Fair, they've had to cancel out. And
did they have a virtual livestock auction?
They're going to have a virtual online livestock auction for the FFA and 4-H young folks to be able to show, get their projects judged, and in many cases sell them to a prospective buyer. So
I think the restaurants, what's exciting is the restaurants. I work with Chris Shake of Old Fisherman's Grotto, and he's a very big supporter of the ag. A lot of the restaurants, don't they buy their meat sometimes, go to the Freedom Locker and Corralitos, and I would imagine.
Yes, the community is always so generous in supporting the endeavors, all the hard work of these young folks. My daughter, one of my daughters had a hog as one of her projects, and she put a lot of work in there, and she's very proud of it, and was able to make some money on when she sold her project. So very rewarding and very educational.
But I don't remember 4-H in Los Angeles. That's why Susan Cohen's story is so amazing to me. And 4-H and FFA teach so many lifestyle skills, financing and responsibility. And, I just think it's marvelous. It's a marvelous program that I didn't know about, to be honest.
They are, leadership, they public speaking.
They volunteer at the fair, the Junior Fair Board. Yeah, they're great. Oh, I'm glad your daughter's involved. Okay, back to weights and measures.
So some folks don't know that the agricultural commissioner is also the sealer of weights and measures. So I just added this one slide to mention that folks may see these round stickers on gas pumps, and if they look closely, they'll see currently they'll see my name or whoever is the ag commissioner at the time in whichever county. You'll see their name there, and these are the seals from which we get our sealer name. But we check scales. This here is a scale where someone would put like a bin with grapes in it, and we would be weighing that. These are some of our weights that we use to test and make sure that the scale is accurate. So we check scales, gas dispensers, taximeters, gas and electric meters, and then we do quantity control, and we check firewood to make sure that when somebody buys a cord of firewood, it's actually a cord of firewood and nothing less. So that's how we do work for the consumer by ensuring an even marketplace.
Honesty. When trucks go off to be weighed, can you talk 1 minute about that? You know, you're driving down the freeway and you see that. What is that? What's happening there?
Uh, well, there's
Wait, something happened. Go ahead.
sometimes they'll check to see.
Wait,
They'll stop the vehicles to see if they're too heavy,
okay,
and so they'll go up on a scale that will actually weigh the vehicle. So there's weight limits for these vehicles. You can't just go there and have a vehicle that's too heavy for our roads, because it'll damage our roads.
I see. I thought it was the other way around, that they leave Salinas with this amount and then there's shrinkage, and then when they weigh it, they check. No?
That's not how they check.
Okay.
They actually will check with. They'll have new electronic thermometers.
Oh,
One of the problems that has happened in the past was that you would ship a trailer load of produce back east, and then back east they'd call you and say, "Oh, that produce was ruined. The refrigeration system didn't work properly, and so we're not going to pay you anything for your produce." And so we used to check that to verify that the temperature was whatever it was when the truck left. But because something can happen en route, there's now electronic devices that track the temperature throughout the whole trip, so that
great.
nobody can tell a grower that, "Oh, your shipment was ruined, and so I'm not going to pay you now." Now we know for fact that it did arrive, at least temperature wise, was fine.
Later, can we talk about kind of the distribution of how much of our ag goes out of state, out of country? We can talk about that later.
That slide coming up.
Great. You anticipated my questions.
But before that, I just want to just a couple other things that the Ag
Sure.
Commissioner's Office engages in. We have a program that we call pest detection, and this where we're actually looking for pests that are out in the environment, pests that we generally don't have here in the county. And the idea is that we want to catch them as soon as they get here, so that we can kill the bug when it's only one bug, and not find out later that it's become established and now we can't get rid of them because there's so many spread out over the natural environment. So we have traps. This was actually my first job with the Agricultural Commissioner's Office, was as a trapper, and trapping these exotic invasive species with these traps. So we still do that, and that's done throughout the state, trying to find these pests that are out there. And so the goal is to detect the population while it's very small.
Like COVID, like we should have done with COVID.
Like we
The
should have
fruit
done.
fly, isn't there a fruit fly? Or
Yes, this is actually a pest that we have. It's the albam, the light brown apple moth. We actually have this pest and have had it for many years. I think since 2008. And the bad thing about it, there's a number of things that are bad about this light brown apple moth. Number one, it's a quarantine pest, which means that other countries will not accept our produce
oh,
because of this light brown apple moth, unless we take certain measures like trapping to monitor the population. And then once you trap and you find, you're expected to conduct some kind of a pesticidal treatment to kill the light brown apple moth, so that when it's harvested, there won't be any of this light brown apple moth in the shipment of produce that was
right.
Canada or Mexico. So it adds additional cost. And then our department inspects for these shipments, looking for that pest, and we don't do it for free. This is something that we charge industry for that service to conduct the inspection and to issue a certificate of cleanliness for that shipment to enter whichever country it's going to. This here is just an electron microscope picture of a fruit fly that I think looks so cool that I like to include in my slides.
Well, where are you, at what point are you doing the tests? In each shipment? No.
Well, each shipment that is required to be inspected, we inspect. And so I'll give you some numbers right now so you can see
Yeah,
how many we actually inspect. But before then,
sure, of course.
another pest that we have in the county. It's a very tiny pest. I don't know if you can see it here in this small inserted picture, but it's a very tiny pest. This is just a blow up of, of that picture right there. But it's the Asian citrus psyllid, which we have in the county. And we have some quarantine requirements in order to ship our lemons that we grow here. We have some lemons that we grow here outside of Gonzales, but we can't ship them until we meet certain importation requirements, even to ship within the state of California. So we ship them to Ventura County for packing and processing, and sometimes to Tulare County. But before they go to Tulare or Ventura County, they must be cleaned of any leaves and debris. And we conduct periodic inspections to check to make sure that the growers are following these compliance agreements. In order
Right.
to make their life and our life a little easier, we all agree that they will conduct certain measures to make sure that there's no Asian citrus psyllid in their shipments. And so that way they're able to ship and we don't have to inspect every single lemon that goes out because it'd be too much, be overwhelming and not necessary for us to do that level of inspection.
Is there anything infrared you do or anything like that? Any high-tech way of checking?
No. Sadly, it takes us actually having to look through, and we don't inspect every single lemon.
No,
We will inspect a representative sample
right, statistically.
statistically, and so based on our sample, it's either all clean or it's all dirty.
Well, we'll talk about technology and ag later, but one day there should be something technologically invented by one of our youth.
It's coming, no doubt,
Yeah,
and probably somebody from Salinas.
right.
So this is just another more effort that we conduct. We enforce state and federal quarantines. We conduct these detection activities. I mentioned the trapping, but we also inspect at the border. And actually, we don't inspect at the border. The California Department of Food and Ag, they have their inspectors inspect at the border. But when a shipment comes in, if there is something questionable in that shipment, they will inform us of that shipment, of where it's going to, what business address, and then the business is required to call us. But we already know that it's coming and we can anticipate when it arrives. So we'll make sure that we go out and inspect that shipment more closely than what can be done at the border station.
So the word quarantine is very familiar to you guys already.
It's very familiar. That is all that we do. And not only for insects, but for bacteria, for weeds, for viruses. We enforce these quarantines. We're always looking for these viruses, looking for these insects, looking for these weeds with various methods that we know to find them. And again, the idea is to keep them out. First step is to try to keep them out. The next step is to try to find them in case they do get in. The next step is to eradicate them if they ever do come in and we find them. And then if we cannot eradicate the population, then we go into a management mode where we're just hoping to keep the population small and localized.
That sounds very familiar. Today, you tell
Doesn't
them to shelter in place, so you don't tell them.
it? So coming up is the slide I was wanting to show you about the shipments. And I hope you can see this.
Yeah.
So we call this pest exclusion. We're trying to keep pests out of our county, but we're also trying to keep pests out of other places in the world, other counties, other states. And so these are just, this graph here shows the number of these inspections and of these phytosanitary certificates that we issue if the shipment is found to be free from the pest of concern of the importing jurisdiction. So we have two different types of these certificates. One are the federal, and we call them phytos for short, but phytosanitary certificate. But the federal phytosanitary certificates are for shipments that are going to leave the country. They're going to, and we ship all over the world.
We do. Yeah.
And that's why we're the salad bowl of the world for
That's
that.
right.
And then we issue a state phytosanitary certificate for shipments that are going to other states in the nation. And these are just the numbers. You can see the number. We have our peak season. We're entering peak season here in 2018. We had a total of federal phytosanitary certificates, looks like 18,639.
Wow.
So that's one phytosanitary certificate per shipment. And each shipment can have a number of different commodities. But a shipment is basically one shipment that's going from to one address someplace in another country or another state. And so each
So you
one,
must have a lot of staff dedicated to that, no?
we do.
Yeah.
And this is the one activity that cannot stop year round.
No.
Year round, because we grow year round, we produce year round, because we eat year round. We have to conduct these inspections to get these shipments through the border stations in other countries and other states.
Very important.
Very important. We have a few more slides here just to remind me of what else we do. We also regulate what's called direct marketing, which is more commonly known as farmers markets. We actually not only inspect the markets, but we inspect the farmers that go there to sell.
Good.
We'll actually go to their place, to their farm, and we will verify that they say they're growing tomatoes. We want to see the tomatoes growing, and we want to see how much area they're growing. So we'll take our photographs, we'll take video, we'll measure with measuring wheels the area that they're farming to make sure that what they say they're growing and going to sell at the farmer's market, that's accurate. Otherwise, we won't issue them the certificate, and we will stop them from selling at the markets. The worst thing that can happen at these markets is somebody is actually buying produce and selling it. That really undermines the whole purpose of a farmer's market, where it's supposed to be the farmer that's selling directly marketing to the consumer.
In my, and it seems like it's growing and growing and growing in popularity. In fact, I think Rick Johnson for the downtown Monterey farmers market was getting tens of thousands of people. So he hasn't been able to reopen, I guess at the beginning of this COVID, but Del Monte Center has been having they've been diminished lately, right? The farmers markets.
Somewhat, but they're still open. They're still in business, and we're still inspecting.
Good.
So we also conduct inspections at nurseries. We have a lot of potted plants that we grow and sell from here. We do seed quality and standardization.
A huge seed industry here, right?
Tremendous.
Yes.
Very lucrative and very important. The seed can cost hundreds of dollars per acre. And if you don't have a high germination rate, then you're losing money. So we actually check those kinds of things. We also do produce quality and standardization inspections to make sure that those standards are followed. We also conduct and regulate organic production. organic produce, and we're one of 3 counties in the state that are also certifiers of organic production.
Good.
So we both certify organic producers, and then we regulate organic producers.
Good.
Um,
Sure.
our
Absolutely.
newest crops, cannabis and hemp. So a lot of issues with both, and we're still working our way through there and still trying to figure it out. It's been very dynamic, still fluid, and but we're
Well,
doing pretty
didn't
good.
early America grow hemp for sure, right?
They did. Matter of fact, the first president of the United States, George Washington, he grew hemp,
Right.
and so
Right.
we
It's
just
essential, they say.
agriculture is essential, and these are agricultural crops, and it's part of our many different crops that give the county such strength. The more commodities you grow, the stronger
Right.
you are economically.
Well, especially if weather variances, I bet,
There's weather, there's markets, there's pest pressure, diseases. Any one of those things could wipe us out. And so having these many different crops really gives us our strength here.
are you
Uh,
certifying these as well? Providing
Not yet,
certificates?
not yet, because there's not a certification protocol yet. But the state is working on a protocol. As a matter of fact, we were working with the state on the development of their protocol. Since we're a certifying agency, they wanted to know
Absolutely.
what we do, what we look for.
Good.
Soon there'll be certified
So we
cannabis.
only have 10, we only have 10 growers?
That was of hemp. We only had 10 companies that registered. The Board of Supervisors a couple of weeks ago opened up the program so that more, up to 30, will be able to grow hemp. Cannabis, I don't regulate all of the cannabis activities. I do regulate some of the cannabis activities like pesticide use
Good.
and farm worker safety, field worker safety. I regulate that. I regulate invasive species with regards to cannabis and hemp. And then I also, as sealer of weights and measures, since these commodities are sold by weight, I also regulate hemp and cannabis in that regard. But the county, under the CAO's office, they're the entity that licenses cannabis growers. I license or register hemp growers. It's a bit of a difference there.
I'm so naive. Is it always grown under? No, it can be grown outside because I see in this picture, it looks like it's grown in a greenhouse or something.
Yes, cannabis is grown almost exclusively under either plastic or glass houses. There is the county did start an outdoor pilot in the Big Sur, Cachagua, and Carmel
Right.
Valley area that went nowhere, and so they're still trying to figure out how to make that happen.
Hmm.
But it can be grown outdoors, and I think it's the way it's been growing is outdoors.
Yeah, Big Sur with the people with the rifles. That's what I remember. Be careful where you hike. That's what I used to hear.
Well, under the county's plan, hopefully that won't be an issue anymore if they
Right.
become
Right.
legalized. We're working together with them to bring them into the legal work.
And paying taxes. Fine.
Uh, one of the biggest programs I also administer as agricultural commissioner is pesticide use enforcement. Very important program. There's a lot that happens with this. I have tremendous authority over these activities. Basically, we go out there and make sure that only the right pesticides are being used in the right amounts. The great majority of the regulations that we enforce are for the protection of the workers and of the environment and of the commodities, whichever commodity they may be. so that consumers are safe in consuming those commodities. But we have a big uh, unit that inspects pesticide use. We regulate it very, very closely. We investigate any incidents involving pesticides, and we have the authority to issue administrative penalties. These are fines, and they can be up to $5,000 per count, and as low as $50, depending on what the violation is. Yeah, we try to tailor the punishment to the crime.
In this era of COVID paranoia and food safety, which is it better to wash your fruits and vegetables in water or in water and vinegar, in your estimation?
Well, it really depends, I think, on the commodity and your own peace of mind. I don't do it in water. I mean, with vinegar, I'll just use water.
Yeah, that seems to be prevalent. I look online, but then somebody will say use vinegar, but it can change the taste of the produce.
Yeah,
And don't wash it. I told my husband, don't wash it in onions and water. That doesn't work.
But pesticide use is
Very controversial.
important. And one of my personal interests, because I did work when I was an inspector, I worked in pesticide use enforcement for about 10 years solid. That's all I did with pesticide use enforcement. And even after those 10 years, I've worked all of my career in pesticide use enforcement and continue to consider myself an expert in this area, at least in pesticide regulation, taking it very serious, the protection of workers, especially having been a farm worker. I'm very sensitive to that, to their safety. And
do they come up with new pesticides that quote unquote are safer, but still protect the crop production? I mean, that must be the balancing act.
Yes, and I'll share with you that over the course of my 35 years of working in this system regulating pesticide use, that the entire trajectory has been towards safer and safer and safer and safer pesticides.
Right.
And many of the more toxic, most hazardous pesticides, they're gone. We don't use them anymore. And now the pesticides that are used are much more environmentally friendly. They break down quicker. As far as washing produce, there's there's studies that are conducted of these chemicals and their properties, so that it can be predicted that at a certain dose, the pesticide will have its beneficial effect. It will kill the bug, it will kill the fungi, or whatever it is it's supposed to do at a certain dose. So you don't want to put more than you need. So it's calculated exactly, and you cannot exceed that dose, because that would be a serious violation.
Right.
And then that dose that's on there, it's calculated how long it will take that pesticide to break down. So it'll break down based on time, exposure to light, the moisture in the air, and its own chemical properties. It'll start to break down, and so workers can then enter. And when these pesticides break down, they break down to their most elemental constituents, like hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, whatever it is. They just start to break down in the environment. But it takes a certain amount of time. And so workers are not allowed to go in there until the pesticide has broken down or evaporated or whatever. It's gone, and then it's now considered okay to enter. It can be as soon as the pesticide is dried, or it can be many days before anybody is allowed, depending on the chemical properties of that pesticide. And then there's another period of time that's calculated, which is the pre-harvest interval. And that is the period of time that it is based on the studies of that particular chemical. It has been determined that that pesticide will have diminished, broken down, be gone, and it is okay to eat, to harvest for consumption after that point in time. And so that's all been calculated. That's all part of the requirements. And another one of the more serious requirements that we check for, and that if it's a violation, um, likely if we find out, we do test at the markets, we do test in the fields. If we find that there's any pesticide residues in excess of what's allowed, you're going to lose that whole field. Everything that's been packed, harvested, what's in the field will be lost. We
Good.
will destroy it. We will
And
have
with and with the organic, what is the difference between organic and non-organic?
well, the principal difference is that with organic, you cannot use synthetic chemicals, synthetic fertilizers, or synthetic pesticides. You have to use naturally occurring materials. That's the basic difference. But I'll share that with some commodities, um, I think almost all commodities, they use the same products as organic farmers. But what happens with conventional is that there may be one particular pest problem that they do not have sufficient control with an organic product. And so the only way they can get control is using a synthetic material. And so, and if they didn't do that, then either we wouldn't have that commodity available at all, or the production would be so low that
Wood breaking.
it's not really economically feasible. So,
And another buzzword, Henry, while I've got you, and there's no hurry because I'm so grateful to be able to talk to you. GMO, I mean, Neil Young is an advocate of non-GMO. Can you talk about that at all?
yes, what little I know about this, I'm not afraid of genetically modified organisms. I think that the problem is that there's really no federal regulation. That's why many of the counties about 20 years ago started to try to regulate it themselves. But really, it's a fabulous tool if we use it right, and it's a tool like any other tool.
Yeah.
A hammer, for instance, it's a great tool to drive nails, but can be an awesome weapon as well. With GMOs and other genetically modified organisms through different methods, can be a great tool to us in agriculture, so that we can grow crops that are more resistant to diseases and to pests, which would mean that we wouldn't have to use as many, if not any, pesticides on those crops. We could have greater production, so that in a smaller area with less water, we could grow the same amount or more of these crops. So I think that a lot of good can be done, but because people are afraid of what somebody might do bad with it, uh, or inadvertently do with it, we're not even close to allowing it to be done in a more robust way.
Okay. Thank you.
Perhaps someday in the future, but I wouldn't hold my breath. So just a couple other little things that we do.
Sure.
We're the only county that actually has its own farm worker advisory committee. Now, here in the county, we have an agriculture advisory committee that makes recommendations to me and to the board of supervisors, primarily to the board of supervisors, but to other entities as well. And almost all counties have an ag advisory committee, but we're the only county that has a farm worker advisory committee. And this here is a card that was developed by the Farm Worker Advisory Committee, and it's in English and Spanish. This is the card here, both sides, front and back, and then this is what it says in English, translated of the card because it's in Spanish. But it's basically telling the farm workers that if they have questions or problems with pesticides, to call our office so that we can answer their question or potentially investigate whatever is the issue, problem occurring with the pesticides. And then it tells them what to do in case they're exposed or something. They're told to call 911. They also tell them about their right to report incidents and their right to be protected from retaliation. So this is one of the cards that it is approximately credit card size so that the workers can carry it in their wallets and call us if they have a question or an issue.
Good.
So we did that, I think in 2017. Uh, and here last year, the California Department of Pesticide Regulation came out with this app. And it's called the California System for Pesticide Incident Reporting. And it's an app that you can download for free on your phone, on your smartphone. And depending on your settings, it'll be either in English, if that's what your settings on your phone are in, or if your settings are in Spanish, the app will be in Spanish. And it's a way to report problems, incidents, or ask questions about pesticide use, pesticide safety, whatever is your pesticide issue. And the idea is that farm workers can use this app and report to the ag commissioner. So they can download pictures, they can download video. The system is able to geolocate where that complaint is coming from, so that the complaint will go directly to the ag commissioner's office to report. So this was released last year by the California Department of Pesticide Regulation. To date, though, I've not received a single call or complaint via this system.
Could be a deterrent.
It may be too new or something, but perhaps workers think that somehow they're going to be identified on
Yeah.
there. That could also be.
It's been kind of a tough environment right now.
Yes.
Immigration and etc.
Been terrible. I mean, if life as a migrant farm worker or a farm worker wasn't bad enough before,
Yeah.
isn't. And now we got COVID to boot.
I know. Be sure to vote the next election, which who knows how it'll be administered this election.
Yeah, be careful with that one. So we also have this, this is also unique to Monterey County. We have this school fumigation notification pilot program that's been funded by the California Department of Pesticide Regulation. And the goal of the pilot project is to provide parents, teachers, students, school employees, and the community with information about fumigant use on farmland in proximity to schools in Monterey County. Now, the proximity is within a quarter of a mile. If there's going to be a fumigant pesticide used within a quarter mile of a school in the northern part of Monterey County, there is information about that on this website. This is the first the homepage of the website, and you can go there, Farming Safely Near Schools, in English or Spanish. You can visit the site. The site will provide you information about pesticides, about fumigants, about pesticide safety. And it also offers you a map where you can see the schools, and each school has a quarter-mile circle drawn around it, so you can see which farms are around there. And if you want, you can sign up to receive a notification of when there is going to be a fumigation performed within a quarter mile of any of the schools.
Great. Now, right now it's a moot point, but who knows soon. Yeah.
Yes, and it sort of became a moot point a couple of years ago because there's a new regulation, pesticide and schools regulation, that does not allow fumigations and other pesticides to occur within a quarter mile of schools when schools are in session, or 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You cannot conduct any fumigation within a quarter mile of a school, and almost all pesticide applications cannot occur within a quarter mile of schools during that time. So this is almost a moot point because if you sign up for the notifications, you'll be notified, but the application won't happen when school is in session. It'll happen on Saturday. It can only happen on Saturday. It can only happen on Saturday morning now because of other requirements that For instance, one requirement says that the fumigation has to have stopped 36 hours before school is in session, any school within a quarter mile. And so you can only fumigate within a quarter mile of schools on Saturday mornings.
And also, we lived out in Oak Hills near Castroville, and they would put sheets of plastic. I think there are a lot of strawberry fields out there and
Yes,
artichokes, and they
yes,
would seal it off too.
yes. And those plastics are specially designed to hold the fumigants in the soil so that they can do what we want them to do, which is to kill the bugs, kill the diseases that are in the soil so that we can grow strawberries.
Yeah, great. I love safety.
And so that is my last slide. So uh, as always, if you're in today, thank a farmer and a farm worker.
Absolutely.
I'll take any questions if you have any more.
Yeah, I think we should talk about COVID-19
Oh,
and how it's changed everything for you,
well, it has
probably.
changed everything, but I'll focus in on its impact on agriculture.
Yes.
Just today, I issued a press release with regards to a survey that I had staff conduct between April 20th and April 24th. And the reason I asked staff to conduct this phone survey was because I was hearing that farmers were having to plow under fields of crops without harvesting them, and that some of their contracts were getting canceled. And
Right.
so I needed to know, I needed to get some better information than to just things that I've been hearing. I wanted to get, and so we conducted this survey, and indeed, everything that was been said anecdotally was true, and then some. And so there have been lots of losses, and right now we still don't know what the full extent of those losses are because the farmers don't know because it's continuing. But we did want to get an idea of what it's looking like. So because of the loss of the food service sector, for no restaurants are open, no schools are open, and all of that loss,
Conferences, even
conferences,
restaurants.
restaurants, yes, so much is not happening. And everywhere we gather like that, we're eating. And so because of all of those cancellations, there have been reductions in acreage planted now, and plans for the future have also been cut back. There have been many acres of produce that have been plowed under. There was a field of head lettuce right behind my office, and it was maybe a week or two away from harvest, and instead they plowed it under.
Could it
Now,
be shipped to another country, or is there I
well,
mean, there's no markets out of the area?
we are still shipping out of the country, so those markets are good. But again, it's the food service industry, anything here in California going to those events, because they're not happening anymore. That produce is going to waste. Now, some farmers, some of the processing facilities, they have donated produce to the food bank, which is a good thing. We need that, but not all. In some instances, because they haven't harvested and there's nowhere to sell it anyway, they are choosing to disc it under, just to plow it under, because otherwise they'd be suffering additional costs to have it harvested, have it boxed, have it transported. When they're already lost money on that crop, they don't want to throw good money after bad, as they say. So they sometimes will plow the field under. So later on this year, later on when this pandemic is done with us, we'll be able to conduct another more inclusive, more intense survey to find out what was that loss in dollars. Now,
Can I?
something
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say something else about that. It's not just going to be the dollars that the farmers are losing because they couldn't sell that crop. But remember, I spoke about the multiplier effect. Well, not only is that farmer not able to pay the workers because
Yeah.
they didn't do the work, not only not pay the truck because they didn't have the truck, et cetera, et cetera. But then the multiplier effect that those dollars would have had, the impacts those dollars would have had on the community, that's gone too. So the great benefit is gone. So we just don't know at this point exactly what those losses are going to be, but we're going to find out.
Right. And I'm grateful that one wholesaler is now selling to that I know of near me, Russo's is selling to the public, which is gorgeous produce. I have to say, I've never seen produce so beautiful, and putting it in our trunks and, and luckily the COVID-19 is not shown to come through food, but again, you can wash, you should wash your food probably anyway. Is there no way to kind of recoup those fields, or it's as they go to plant again, is there some smart way to plant, in terms of crops that would be maybe more consumer consumed versus the cafeterias and
Yes, well, the export market is already pretty saturated, but if you can find any additional or new export markets, that would be the place to go. Our export
right.
markets are pretty good, and we have a good idea about that because we're inspecting and certifying every shipment, so we know that. But these other shipments that are um, not getting harvested or not being sold, something that farmers may do, if you know how long a crop takes to grow, and they know,
Of
is it 30
course.
days, is it 45 days, how many days to harvest? And if they can anticipate that the schools are going to be open, restaurants are going to be back in business, conferences are going to start again, they can anticipate when that might happen, then they can grow a crop in anticipation of harvesting just in time for the shelter in place order to be lifted somewhat, at least.
Well, for example, on Old Fisherman's Wharf, we have 2 restaurants open, and hopefully in 2 weeks we'll have 4 restaurants open. And but again, the volume is diminished because no tourists are coming, so it's more locals than not. But you'd be surprised, I'm getting a lot of calls from people from Modesto and Fresno who want to come visit Old Fisherman's Wharf in Monterey. And I say, wear a mask, wear gloves, keep your distance, come on down. Just be careful. But I read today in the Packer, and I think I sent you that maybe, that could there be some government subsidies for the farmers? Like you said that in Ventura, it was a big deal, right?
No, in the Central Valley,
Central Valley, right.
they do receive some. It's primarily for dairy.
Okay.
The government buys a lot of the cheese products, and then they have it available for their various food programs. But most of the federal dollars have gone and historically have gone to the crops that are grown in other parts of the country for corn, soybean, wheat subsidies. Not that much has historically come to California. We do receive some, but it's not direct subsidies. There are some programs that will for cattle and for trees, but they're not what folks might think they are. They generally won't cover, depending on the program. They won't cover until um, you have to make a certain amount and no more than a certain amount, and then your losses have to be above 50%, and then we pay a percentage of that, and then a lot of the help are in the form of loans, low interest loans, but not a lot of free dollars, and certainly our farmers here they do receive some, but
Well,
it's
these are
still.
unprecedented times. That's, I I think to get past this period, we all may need some help. So,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
that's what, this, I think Governor Newsom and the president knows that.
Yes, one of the most important aspects of this COVID-19 and agriculture are the farm workers and their role as essential workers. in other emergencies, because as ag commissioner, we have responsibilities for all emergencies that impact agriculture or the natural environment.
Like fires, maybe?
Fires, principally droughts, infestations, disease infestations, but the COVID-19 is a whole different animal. It's a whole different situation that it's going to take some time to come back from this particular uh, loss, um, but we will. We
Yeah,
will.
I think we will. We'll talk again and see what's happened in the interim when we next talk. But I deeply, deeply appreciate all your time and these great slides. And is there anything else you'd like to share with the viewers?
Well, I would just want everybody to continue to maintain social distance, continue to wash your hands, continue to be safe, not just for your own sake, but for the sake of everyone else.
Yeah, I'm glad we went to the masks because I think that's part of the solution, frankly, and
Yes.
gloves and social distance. But I do hope that we will, recover soon. And even today, the governor opened up gardeners and some construction and some retail. So if we're just strategically smart about it, and I'm going to think about some new markets for the farmers because there's got to be some around the globe. There has to be some, doesn't there?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's always
It's just
somebody around the world who had a drought, had a fire, had a particular insect pest or a disease that they don't have a particular commodity. We're happy to provide that for them.
right, right. Well, thank you for all you do, and thank you so much for all your time. And I think I'll ask you to take it off the PowerPoint so I can see the controls.
Sorry about that.
No, 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 no. Okay, I'm good. All right. Shut that down. Well, thank you so much for your time again. And I look forward to talking to you and seeing you in the future.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks again.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.